beliefs at Hope City. One of our core beliefs at Hope City is that God's word, the Bible, is more than just the wisdom of ages. It's God's powerful communication to reveal himself to us and to change us to become like him. We listen to what he says as our Father, as someone in authority over us.
So we spend significant time as a church engaging with it. Today, Kwame, Tim and Noah will be going to help us learn from our next section as we work through an account of Jesus' life.
While he's speaking, if writing things down helps you to engage, our welcome team will get you a clipboard and pen to you if you put your hand up, or you can use the digital handout by following the instructions on the screen.
You can also ask any questions you have on the app or this website, and we'll respond to them after the talk. Just before Kwame comes up to speak, I would like to invite Ellie to come read our verse Bible passage for today, Matthew 26, verse 31 to 35.
Matthew 26, verse 31 to 35. You can find it on page 996 of the Church Bibles. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night before the cock crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same.
Hello, I'm Kwame, and thanks for coming. Have you ever been told not to do something, and you're sure you wouldn't, but you end up doing it anyways? I know I have. I remember in primary 2, I did baking, and I was told not to touch the hot metal the cupcakes we were making were in. I was sure I wouldn't, but against my teacher's will, my hand reached out to touch it. I was warned for a good reason, but I decided to touch it. This reminds me of what we just read, how Jesus predicted his disciples, some of his closest followers, would mess up horribly, even after he warned them. Let's take a closer look at this story and what we can see from Jesus foretelling their mess up. After the Last Supper, Jesus went out to the Mount of Olives. At the Mount, Jesus said to the disciples, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.'" In other words, Jesus is the shepherd, and those following him are the sheep. As we saw last week when Tom and Alex gave their talk, Judas would betray Jesus, turning him over to be killed. Jesus, the shepherd, was struck, and the followers of the sheep would scatter. Then Peter said, "Even if all others lose their faith, I will not." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. You may think, who does Peter think he is? But later on, the other disciples said the same. And if we're honest, we do the same when we think our way is better than God's. Or in my case, me touching the hot metal. So, Jesus predicts that he'd be struck, and the other disciples would scatter, leaving him. But Peter says, "No way, not me," and the other disciples agree. Jesus knows Peter will still mess up in a big way, 3 times. Why would Jesus predict this, even though he knew it wouldn't stop his followers from failing? I would like to look at 3 things the followers could have learned and what we can learn today from this. The first lesson we can learn from this is, it's not a surprise. Peter was adamant about how he wouldn't sin, but it was a surprise to him. But it wasn't to Jesus. Jesus always knew. Our sin may be a surprise to us, but it's not a surprise to God. So why does this matter? Jesus knew Peter was going to reject him in a big way, and yet Jesus still invited Peter to follow him. And as we'll see later when Tim speaks, he'll ask Peter to watch and pray with him. We learn that Jesus calls imperfect people to follow him, including those who will fail miserably in the future. Peter's failure and none of ours can ruin God's plans. Personally, this makes me take a sigh of relief, knowing that I'm not too far from God, and no matter what I'll do, I'll never be too imperfect for God. And with all my failures, he still invites me to follow him. The fact that it isn't a surprise makes me glad. The second thing we can take away is, because it's not a surprise to Jesus, it gives no false expectation to us. Jesus chose Peter, knowing that he would deny him, and Jesus still wants Peter to be with him. Jesus doesn't wait around for people that are perfect to invite them to be around him. After all, Mark 2:17 said, "On hearing this, Jesus said to them, 'It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners.'" I think Jesus said this because, after all, Jesus doesn't give food to the full, and doctors don't heal the healthy. What I mean by this is, Jesus knows we mess up. If God knows we mess up and still invites us to follow him, then being a follower isn't about being perfect, but following the one who is perfect. If you're waiting around until you feel good enough to follow Jesus, stop waiting. Jesus invites you to follow him, knowing your failures. The last lesson we can learn from this is Jesus giving the disciples hope. You may ask, why would Jesus, predicting the disciples' failure, give them hope? Failure is a bad thing, right? Yes, but we can see Jesus hinting at hope in the last We can see Jesus hinting at hope in at least two ways. The first right here is in the text. Yes, the disciples will fail, but seeing Jesus will be arrested and die. But at least he's telling them they'll fail, and he says he will rise again, come back, and be waiting for them in Galilee. The second reason for hope is a little more hidden, a kind of Easter egg. We find it by looking more at who Jesus is quoting when he says, "I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." For some more context on this, Jesus is quoting the Old Testament prophet Zechariah. It's found in Zechariah 13:7. If we keep reading, we'll learn something more about how the sheep will scatter. We'll see this in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 9, where it says, "This third I will put into the fire. I will find them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. And I will say, 'These are my people,' and they will say, 'The Lord is our God.'" When Jesus predicts that the sheep will be scattered, he reads Zechariah. And by using this, it alludes to the fact that they can be like that third that calls on God, comes back, and calls them his own. So, what does this mean for all of us? Like Peter and the disciples, we'll still scatter in times of strife, and he still calls on us. We also know that we don't need to be perfect to start our journey with God, because being perfect is the destination, not the starting line. Our last lesson is when we sin, there's always hope. We can turn back to God and call on him, and he will call us our own. So altogether, following Jesus isn't about being perfect, but it's about calling on him again and again. Like the great poet Rocky Balboa said, but it ain't about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep going, and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. If we're honest, we all have been like the sheep who scattered. Turn from Jesus. My question is, will you be like the one who, in failure, turn back and call on God? If we call on him, he'll call us our own. Following Jesus isn't about being perfect, but it's about calling on him again and again. Can't find the last page. As we reflect on this, I would like to invite Lydia up to the stage to let us know about what's coming next.
Thank you, Kwame, for reminding us that we don't have to be perfect to follow Jesus and that there is hope even when we fail. As we continue the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, I would like to invite Tim to continue the teaching of us today. Over to Tim.
Sorry, the mic stand's very low. Thanks, Lydia. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim. I'm 15 years old, and I'm really glad to be speaking with you guys today. I'm a student in S4. I love anything to do with planes, and I'm also a very, very keen runner. Now, as a runner, I don't always know when my next race is. There's no big date circled on my calendar, but that doesn't stop me from training. Every day, I'm out there running, doing strength work at the gym, watching what I eat, just in general, keeping my body ready for when the race day comes. Because when the race finally arrives, I want to be prepared. Last week, Tom and Alex talked about the Last Supper, where Jesus sat down with his disciples for the final meal before his crucifixion. In that moment, Jesus not only predicted his own death, but also Judas's betrayal and Peter's denial, as Kwame also just spoke about. Right after that, we find Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He brings Peter, James, and John with him, and he's deeply troubled. He tells them to stay awake and pray. And then we get to Matthew 26, verse 41, which is the words I will be focusing on today. I would like to invite Grace up to come and read the passage for us.
If you're on the church Bibles, it's page 997. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. He said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Could you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" He asked Peter. "Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to his disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered to the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer."
Thank you, Grace. In Matthew 26, verse 41, it says, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Let's break down what Jesus means here. When Jesus says watch, the Greek word is gregorete. It doesn't just mean keeping your eyes open. It means to be spiritually alert, to be ready, awake, not just physically, but in your soul. Then he says, pray. You might be thinking, why does he say this? Because prayer connects us to God's strength, not relying just on our own. It's a reminder that we can't do things in our own power, but through his power. And then comes the reason for his command. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. The word for spirit in Greek is pneuma, and can mean our inner desire or intention. And the Greek word sarx refers to our human weakness, vulnerability to temptation and failure. This is where we find ourselves falling short of God. Most of us want to do the right thing. We want to follow Jesus. We want to be faithful. But when the pressure hits, we're tired, discouraged, tempted. Our flesh often gives in. After this, he goes to pray for a second and a third time. He is overwhelmed with sorrow. And what do the disciples do? They fall asleep again and again. But they weren't trying to be rebellious. In fact, they had a very strong desire to do what God said, but their weakness was stronger. This is quite a similar picture of Christian life for us. You want to stay close to God, but small habits slip in, perhaps through anger, jealousy, or pride. We always need to fight this current temptation. Temptation doesn't appear obviously. It just creeps in when we're tired or distracted. This is the reason why Jesus commands us to watch and pray. The Bible clearly says that Jesus will return, and without warning, shown in 2 Peter 3, verse 10 to 11. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives. Just like I don't know when my next race will be, we don't know when Jesus will return. But the Bible makes it clear that Jesus will be returning to earth. And when he does, everything will be revealed. So Peter asked the question, what kind of people ought we to be? With the answer to his question being, live holy and godly lives. Notice here, it doesn't say perfect lives, but lives that are being strengthened for Christ. Just like I train my body without knowing when the next race will be, Christians are called to prepare their hearts, minds, and lives, even without knowing when Jesus will return. If you are here today and have already put your faith in Jesus, ask yourself, am I training spiritually? Am I watching and praying, or just spiritually sleeping? Am I building strength in my heart, or just coasting? May I recommend you to go to the prayer group on Monday on Zoom, or try a prayer planning app, or maybe committing to pray at a certain time every day, or with a certain friend. If you are here and haven't yet put your faith in Christ, thank you very much for coming. If you are looking to talk to someone about what it means to follow Jesus, then please speak to someone after the gathering today. This could be Patrick, who introduced us this morning. He will be here at the front after the talk. Or you could talk to a church leader, or even just the person next to you. Please now take a minute to reflect on what practical applications you could start in your life to ensure that you get ready through watching and praying. Thanks for listening, and now over to Anna.
Thank you, Tim. Like you said, I hope we can all be ready. And speaking of being ready, Noah, I hope you're ready, because you're up next. With Noah's help, we'll return to the Garden of Gethsemane to learn a bit more about Jesus. It's a privilege to invite someone up to speak with as cool of a last name as me. Noah, over to you.
Hey everyone. Hello. So, imagine this. You're having the best day ever. You're spending time with friends, having a barbecue, even going to the church picnic, maybe playing some games and chatting. Sounds amazing, right? And suddenly, out of nowhere, something really bad happens and you don't know what to do. Well, today we're going to dive back into the story Tim was just teaching on, where something like this happens, but way more intense. We're talking about Jesus and what he went through just before he went to the cross to be crucified. We are looking at Matthew 26, verse 36 to 46, which Grace read earlier, and we will focus on Jesus' prayer to God. We see this begin in verse 39. Going a little further, he, that is Jesus, fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Now, you may be thinking, this is quite a boring verse to be thinking about, Jesus praying to God. But, trust me, this is actually really exciting, because it's about something we all go through, even if we don't realize it straight away. When things get hard, when we're stressed about a test coming up or a job interview for you adults, this passage can really help. We're going to discover a really important secret here, a golden thread that runs throughout the story. It's 6 little words. Your will be done, not mine. Jesus comes before God in the Garden of Gethsemane. He knows he is about to come to his death. He doesn't want this to happen, and is wrestling with his thoughts, his human emotions. We really see him in his true human form here. It is okay for us to pray for the things we want. It is okay for Jesus to want what he wants, even though he already knows the outcome. We see in the prayer requests on the Hope City app prayers for healing, prayers for thanks, prayers for housing issues, or jobs and family struggles. These are great to pray for. What is important to understand is that not all of these will be answered the way we want them to. God's will and not mine. Our thoughts in this world almost always revert to mine, mine, mine. It is important in prayer for us to be honest with what we want. Handing this over to God is the best way. I know that I'm very good at continuing to go back to my parents to see if they change their mind when I ask them something. Quite often, I have asked the wrong way or for the wrong thing. Going back to God in prayer continuously may not necessarily get us what we want, but if we be sure to remember that, God's will and not mine. He will make the decision, and sometimes the decision is yes, and sometimes the decision is no, or not right now. In this passage, we remember that Jesus knew what was about to happen to him. He was going to pay the ultimate sacrifice. He would die a slow and painful death, all for us. Can you imagine going through so much pain for the person in your class that's mean to you, or the person who shows you road rage? That would be a hard decision, wouldn't it? But we see in this passage, in verse 37, Jesus feels anguished and distressed. He is honest with God at this time. In verse 39, we see Jesus pray humbly, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." Being humble before God is accepting and knowing that the things we pray for are in God's hands and not our own. Sometimes we may be sad about the decision, but always remember that God's decision is always right, even if you don't want it to be. Sometimes you will know when God decided after you pray, as he will show signs in many different ways. When you're not sure, just take a bit of time to think what God would want, or what is right. Talking with other Christians about it can help as well. You're not in this alone. Praying humbly means recognizing that God knows best. It means saying, "God, this is what I hope for. This is what I want, but I trust you." We often pray as if we're writing a shopping list or a Christmas list on wants and desires. But true, humble prayer adds that extra layer where we surrender everything to God. It is saying, "You are in control, God." This is hard, isn't it? Giving over control for the things we want or desire to do. Jesus prayed, "Let this cup of suffering be taken away from me," 3 times. His struggle was real. But every time he came back to, "Your will and not mine." This shows obedience and humility. All of this allowed God's plan to unfold, to free us from our sins and allow us to have salvation. Isn't it a good thing that Jesus chose to follow God's will and not his own? A life where God is in control. Is this what you want? Can you give over control to God? It's a worry, isn't it? But let God lead you in your life so that his will can be done, which is always the best way. As we close, let us take a couple of minutes to talk to God honestly and humbly. Is there anything that you're struggling with in which you want to make it your will and not God's? Take some time to do that now, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Thank you all for the talk, and I'd like to invite us all to stand and join us in this last song.
We love to interact with one another at Hope City, so why not turn to someone nearby and take a minute to share your reflections on this morning's talk or discuss one of the questions up on the screen. If you would still like to ask questions or vote for the questions to be answered, you can still go to the Q&R on the app or use the URL on the screen. We'll tackle the top questions in just a few minutes. I hope you've had a chance for some wonderful conversations, and we would love for the conversation to continue after we wrap up our gathering today. We will now take a look at the questions you've been asking as you've listened to Kwame, Tim, and Noah's talk. Why did Jesus tell his disciples to do something, watch and pray, that he knew that they wouldn't be able to do?
I think I'll let you do that one, Pat.
I'm going to ask you questions, Tim. Have you ever benefited from your mother or father or a coach asking you to do something they thought you would fail at?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Any examples come to mind? I know this is on the spot. It's tough.
My running coach often gets me to try and hit times when I'm running around the track, and sometimes I just can't hit them, but I still get the benefit from the workout.
Yeah, there's something to striving for kind of beyond your limits as well. And you might fail the first time, but you might get it the second. It's setting an example as well. Yeah, I think anytime you lower expectations, I think, yeah, you just often fail those. Well answered. Grace.
If I'm a young person and I'd like to get involved in helping at church, how do I do that?
Ask one of the youth helpers and see what jobs are available.
That was well said. I put him on the spot just for fun, and that was really well said. Come talk to us. Do you know who loves to get people on teams? Where's Rachel Round? Like, if she... Oh, she's in crash. You know, you don't even have to, she'll find you if you're standing there and get you on a team. Just come talk to one of us. Joe's back there as well. She's a big advocate of get people on teams. There's lots of team leaders around, so it depends what you're interested in. Just, come talk to one of us, and we would love to get you involved. One of Matt's favorite phrases is participation is a superpower. And I love that phrase, and we really believe that at Hope City, and we want people involved. So, come talk to us.
It has signed me out of Slido.
Oh no, it signed you out. Wow. I will pull it out of my phone. What do we got here? There we go. You can use my phone, but keep hitting the screen is going to lock on you.
Can you explain how in the garden Jesus wants something different from God?
That is an incredible question. One of the greatest mysteries of the Christian faith is what we sometimes theologically call the incarnation. It's God becoming human, being fully God and fully human. So we can have a long conversation on it, but a short technical answer is, though Jesus is one person, he's got two natures. He's got a divine nature, and then when he's born, he has a human nature. And so his wants is an expression of his human nature. His human wants, who wants to die? I don't want to die, right? And you can know it's the right thing to do, right? You could be charging into battle to save someone's life, and you could still be saying, if it's possible, let me not die, and you know it's probably going to happen, right? And so this is the difference there. So there's two ways you can answer this. One is that it's his human nature there. The other thing we want to be careful on, let's say I want to take someone out for ice cream, right? And I say, you pick the place, but I know their favorite place is my favorite place. I can still say, hey, your will, not my will, right? And we could have the same will. But it does seem like Jesus is struggling here in his human nature, saying, I don't want to die, which is quite natural, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing to not want to die. But ultimately, he's saying, God, your will be done. So, yeah.
How do we get to Humby House?
Andrea.
Oh, yes. So if you open the app and you go on What's On, there's the event page of Church Outdoors, and there's the location pin there. Otherwise, there's an email coming up to the whole church this week with more details on how to actually get there.
Ask questions when in doubt.
What does the cup mean?
Kwame, how do you feel answering this one? We talked about this a little bit, right? You What do you think Jesus doesn't want to happen? Kwame. You got a mic.
Jesus doesn't want to die?
Yeah. There's a few different technical answers you could give, but ultimately it's going to the cross, right? Now some say it's perhaps taking on the sins of the world and drinking that punishment for us, that bitter cup, and but ultimately it's going to the cross to die for our sins. This is the cup, the judgment of God. Yeah.
Talk for the kids?
If they were bad, yes. No, I did not write the talks for the kids. We met, had suggestions. Some of my words would have found their way in there here and there, but no, I didn't write the talks for the kids. They did. I'm sorry, I apologize. I feel like I shouldn't call you guys kids. I did not write the talks for the teens. They worked hard on them, and we had conversations back and forth, suggestions, lots of Google Docking back and forth, and so thank you for your hard work. Yeah.
Noah, when was it that you prayed but Jesus said no? How did you feel?
Well, I said, Jesus, should I be a Hibs fan? He said no, so I'm a Hearts fan.
Wow. That was wonderful. There That reminds me of a story. I was back in the States a couple weeks ago, and one of my close friends there, his 6-year-old daughter was crying because God didn't answer her prayer. And he goes, Elle, what were you praying for? And she goes, I wanted God to turn the world into bunny land. But you know what? A bunny, they were walking to school the next day, and a bunny was hopping along. And she said, maybe God did answer my prayer. So it was the sweetest thing ever. So, yeah, cool. Thank you for that answer, Noah. What do we got? Anything left?
No, not really. Sadly, that's all we have time for today. Guys, could you just close the Q&R time with a reminder of the big idea you'd like us to take away from this morning?
Following Jesus isn't about being perfect. It's not about starting being perfect. Being perfect is a destination.
Get ready, watch and pray.
God's will be done, not yours.
Thank you.